Hey, Spirit of Christ family, it's Garrett here. Give you a midweek devotional here, and I'm going to be reading to you some stories about people who cried out for God's glory, pressed into the place of prayer, and God did miraculous things. These three stories I'm going to be sharing with you come from a book called Fire Seeds, probably backwards on the screen there, but by a guy named Dan Hayes. This is a Campus Crusade for Christ publication. So we'll just hear these three stories. First one is about a guy named Jeremiah Lanphier. Maybe you've heard this one. Mr. Jeremiah C. Lanphier, a lay missionary in New York City, was greatly burdened for the salvation of souls. Almost daily, in the lecture room of the old Dutch church on Fulton Street, he would go alone to pray for a genuine revival. The going was slow, and after only a few families came, Lanphier would return to his room in the church consistory, weary and discouraged. At such times, he spread out his sorrows before the Lord in prayer. He never failed to draw new strength from his time of prayer. But on September 23rd, 1857, Lanphier committed to invite others to join him, announcing a weekly prayer meeting with a simple placard on the church door which read, "Prayer meeting from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Stop 5, 10, or 20 minutes, or the whole hour as your time admits." It wasn't until 12:30 he heard a step on the stairs. One man came in, then another, till there were 6. Nothing remarkable took place. After a few minutes of prayer, the meeting was dismissed with the decision that another meeting would be held the following Wednesday. 20 came, the next noon hour meeting. The following Wednesday, 40. A week later, became a daily prayer meeting, with the meeting room overflowing, and simultaneous meetings were being held in other auditoriums of the church building. The seats were being filled, passages and entrances blocked, and hundreds were turned away for lack of room as the crowd swelled to 3,000, leading to the formation of prayer meetings throughout New York City's other churches. If one person praying for revival is good, 2 or more are better. The preceding account of the layman's prayer awakening of 1857 to 1858, and the dramatic break came when Jeremiah Lanphier went public with the meeting, calling others to join him in prayer for revival. Jonathan Edwards, one of the premier channels of the First Great Awakening, said, "When God has something very great to accomplish for his church, it is his will that there should precede it the extraordinary prayers of his people." The layman's prayer awakening soon spread from New York to Philadelphia as a few college and post-college men met for prayer. They became burdened for revival. In November of 1857, they launched a daily prayer meeting, as Lanphier had done in New York City. At first, only a few attended, but they were not discouraged. They continued, and soon the room contained 20, then 30, 40, 50, and finally 60. Fervency of prayer increased. One could sense an explosion about to occur. 4 months after they began to pray, revival began. At first, only the small room was occupied, with a few in attendance, and it became overflowing, and the meeting moved to the main salon. Meetings started there the 10th of March. 2,500 seats were provided and were filled to overflowing. The sponsors next removed a partition from the main floor space platform. Next, the floor platform and the lower gallery, and then the floor platform and both galleries filled up. 6,000 people gathered in Philadelphia daily to pray. These numbers are even more amazing when you consider that the total population of Philadelphia was about 5% of its current size. Affected by the same revival and awakening, the adjacent state of New Jersey recorded over 60,000 converts within a few weeks. And at the same time, 40% of students at Princeton were converted, and 18% of them entered into full-time Christian ministry. These prayers were just ordinary people. Few have found their way into history books, yet through their prayers, they were responsible for thousands, some even say millions of converts, and for multitudes of believers being set on fire for God. These percentages and numbers may seem mind-boggling in light of the spiritual apathy we see today, but we have to ask the rhetorical question repeated throughout Scripture: is anything too hard for the Lord? No. There's absolutely no reason why we should not expect something similar to happen among us today. Thanks, guys.